Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Carlson from Vancouver, Canada. Today's date is Tuesday, December the 8th, and I wanted to go over a few things about my engine rebuild before I actually start the car. This will be video number 1 that I'm going to make. Video number 2 will be the actual starting of it. So let's get a look at what's going on here. So this here's the car that I will be starting in a few minutes here. The battery is charging as we speak, and it's at 62%. Now I could use that to help crank the car, but as a matter of fact, I just found out that the friggin' extension cord is too low. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to explain to everybody what has been going on. So, with this car, holy motherfucking shit was this an experience that I just went and rebuilt the engine on this and got everything going. The minute I received the last part for this car from eBay, it was 1 week ago today, exactly like 7 days right to the mark. I got the last part in the mail and it went to work right away. So I just want to say a big shout out to the two people here, from Robert Do It Yourself, the guy on TV, and also to the guy Simply Volvo. So here is what it is that I had done. I had stripped the entire engine and the engine components right down to the pistons. And I had replaced the connecting rods, I had replaced the bearings, I had went and replaced the gaskets, the rings. One of the things that I did not do was I did not flush the, I did not flush or clean out the fuel injectors. I could have done that, but I didn't. I didn't have enough time. That was one of the things that I had done yesterday. So I had labeled everything with little green tags, little scotch tape, and went and labeled them just so I could put everything back together, and I did. I had a few bolts that I could not get into there because they were hard to reach, so I had to leave them out. And there's only like 2 bolts left that I did not put in, which is not big. Everything else is in there. Now, I'm going to start this car in a few minutes here, and here is what I expect. I expect there to be a delay in the starting. It's either going to start up right away, which is not likely, or it's going to take 5 seconds, or 10 seconds, or a minute, or it's just not going to start at all. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of the electrical components. Now, when I took it apart, there was nothing wrong with the electricity whatsoever. One of the other things I expect is there to be an oil leak. Now, I went and actually put about 7 liters of oil in here already, and when I look underneath, there is 0 leakage. There is 0 black spots underneath this car, and I had put some oil in it, and that was like roughly an hour ago. So after putting oil in it, now I can tell that there is 0 oil leaks anywhere. But that does not mean that there's not going to be any oil leaks when I get the oil circulating and everything's flowing through one another. Now, once it's running, if it's running, I'm going to let it run, and we're going to see how it sounds. It's either going to run for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or it's going to continue to run. But while it's running, I'm going to expect other engine noises to happen. And there's either going to be clunking, clicking, clacking, singing, whatever the heck it is that you're going to hear from this engine. So if you're wondering what the hell it is, why I went and rebuilt this engine, it's because I went and tried to take this to Williams Lake, and when I got into the Coquihalla, the speed limit for the Coquihalla was 120 kilometers an hour, and 5 minutes into doing that speed, that fast, the engine light came on, and then all of a sudden it just died in power. And then all of a sudden that loud squealing noise happened, and then it didn't matter much oil that I put into there, it wasn't going very far, and that squealing noise was happening. So I had to go under a bridge. I can't remember what the hell the name of that bridge was. The Porsche Overpass was the name of it. And I had to call a towing company. The towing company that I called was the same company that's on a TV show called Highway Through Hell. The guy named Jamie came and rescued me, and he towed my car from the Coquihalla all the way back here to Vancouver. And that bill came to $800 Canadian. That was a pretty hefty bill just for that to happen. I had no BCAA or CAA coverage, and it probably would have been a whole lot cheaper if I had went and had coverage. So I didn't, and as a result of that, truck taking it to Williams Lake, it died on me. And then when I took the oil pan off, I went and wiggled each connecting rod, and I found out that the number 1 rod, that's actually the number 5 rod, was loose. And then I made a deduction that the bearing on that rod needed to be replaced. So when I looked up the problem as to what I can do to fix this, I was going to replace the bearing on the connecting rod. What everybody is telling me, including my own dad and what I've seen on YouTube, was you need to turn the son of a bitch and crank. If it's a bad crank on that one part there, it's just going to ruin the bearing. So when I went and put the new bearing and the new rod on there, I went and there was no movement anywhere, and there was nothing loose. It was very tight. So I figured I probably didn't wear the crank out that bad, but that does not mean it was not scored to hell, which it was scored to hell. So I went and put a whole ton of grease on the bearing on the connecting rod, and I went and tightened the hell out of the freaking connecting rod when I went and installed back into the piston. Now, I could have had it turned, but that would have cost me a lot more time and money, and I really wanted to get that done, and getting this done as soon as possible was pertinent to me. I have a driver's road test on Thursday, and I wanted to use this vehicle, if it's going to be operational, by Thursday. So in the event that I am able to get this running, and it's going to run with no problems tonight, tomorrow after work, I'm going to run to the insurance place. I'm going to put a permit on this, a 1-day permit, maybe a 2-day permit, and then I'm going to take it for a test drive. I'm going to take it for a test drive with somebody who has a car, just in case I get stuck or I have to find a freaking tow truck. But I'm just going to take it around the block and see how well it does for driving under load. Having it idle does not necessarily mean it's going to operate the same when it's under load, when I'm driving it. So that's going to be tomorrow's activity if it runs successfully tonight. And as I talk to you, the battery is at 65%. Now, there's not a whole lot else that I can say, but I want to say that I fucking can't believe that I got it done in less than 1 week with everything put back together the way that it was supposed to go back together. Now I went and put sealant on the oil pan, on the bottom of the oil pan, the gasket sealer, went and put, rolled some Permatex stuff, and then I also went and put the sealant between the cylinder head and the block, because I didn't have that before. And then I went and tightened those 12 bolts up on my own. And oh, that's another thing, on my own. I had received absolutely zero help from anybody. Nobody offered their help, nobody offered tools, nobody offered nothing. This car was stripped by myself. This car was put together by myself. I bought my own tools. And as far as tools are concerned, I spent about $500 on tools from Canadian Tire, and it's all sitting in the trunk there. Every tool that was possibly needed to put this car back together and strip it, I had bought out of my own pocket. And luckily I have a paying job to afford all that stuff, because I definitely could not have done that on my own with anything else, with crescent wrench or simple freaking pliers. So I'm going to end this video for now. I'm going to put the battery in, and then I'm going to try to make an attempt to start it, which will be video number 2. What I'm going to do when I start it, I'm going to put the key in, I'm going to turn the electronics on, and I'm going to let everything happen with the whatever it's supposed to happen in it. And then I'm going to wait a few minutes. I'm going to analyze the car underneath, see if there's any other leakage happening when I turn the battery on. And then I'm going to turn the ignition on, and we're going to see the sounds, or hear the sounds of what's going on. So I'm very anxious, I'm very nervous about that to happen, and that is exactly what's going to happen in a few seconds here when I get the battery in. So stay tuned.